The United States, often hailed as a global powerhouse, commands unparalleled influence across various realms, sparking admiration worldwide. Economically, the US stands as a colossal force with a staggering nominal GDP of around $26.95 trillion in 2023. If you don't have any idea how big that is, it representing a jaw-dropping quarter of the world's wealth. Yes, that's right. 25% of the world's wealth is in the US. This economic prowess translates into significant sway in international trade and finance, bolstered by the ubiquity of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. On the military front, the US boasts unrivaled strength, securing the top spot on the Global Firepower Index for 2023, with an annual military expenditure of approximately $801 billion, accounting for a mind-boggling 38% of global military spending. The US military is a formidable force equipped with cutting-edge technology, from advanced weapons systems to cyber capabilities. Not to mention that, as one of the world's nuclear powers, the US further solidifies its deterrence capabilities. Politically, the US not only holds superpower status, but also strategically forges alliances, positioning itself as a major power broker on the global stage. Beyond geopolitics, American culture permeates the globe, shaping international trends in music, movies, and technology, fostering a soft power influence that resonates globally. However, beneath the veneer of greatness, there exists a nuanced perspective. Despite these advantages, some argue that the United States, for all its dominance, may not be as picturesque as it seems, and I am one of those people. For those outside the borders, maybe the US looks like a great country with all that dominance, but if you look closely, it's actually not that beautiful. A closer look reveals complexities that challenge the narrative of an idealized nation, and that's why I say the United States is a sucky country. The United States, like any nation, weaves a tapestry of complex history and present, adorned with both commendable triumphs and disconcerting facets. To brand it solely as the dark side oversimplifies the narrative, yet I will shed light on some persistently criticized or contentious aspects within the US. Let's embark on a historical journey, shall we? Native American displacement and genocide. Do you recall the founding of the United States? Well, of course, you weren't around then. But are you familiar with the history of its establishment? That in itself is dark enough. This is simply not our land, at least at the beginning. Before the birth of the United States, a mosaic of diverse Native American cultures thrived across North America. However, the arrival of European colonizers ushered in a dark chapter of brutal displacement, warfare, and devastating disease outbreaks. The pre-Columbian Native American population of around 10 million dwindled to a mere 250,000 by the late 19th century. Today, comprising only a modest 2% of the total US population, Native Americans grapple with the lasting repercussions of land dispossession, manifesting in poverty, resource limitations, and cultural upheaval. And do you realize how Americans currently perceive Native Americans? Let's be honest, they are often regarded as a second-class society, a sentiment reflected even within our system. The struggle for tribal sovereignty and acknowledgement of historical injustices persists, echoing through the corridors of time. Slavery and its ongoing legacy. The specter of the transatlantic slave trade looms large over America's history, with millions of Africans subjected to the horrors of unpaid labor and brutal conditions. In fact, the US Census of 1860 counted nearly 4 million enslaved people in the country. That's a lot. And today, the legacy of slavery persists, manifesting in racial disparities across wealth, income, education, healthcare, and the criminal justice system. Black Americans are disproportionately represented in poverty, incarceration, and subjected to various forms of discrimination. Although significant progress has been made with widespread public awareness and the dismantling of systemic barriers, we must acknowledge that this problem still persists. The role of the world's policeman. The United States, a self-appointed global arbiter, has partaken in a multitude of foreign conflicts driven by nebulous motives that are sometimes unclear, be it national security concerns, economic interests, or ideological fervor. The invasion of Iraq serves as a conspicuous example, a chapter in the nation's penchant for playing the role of the world's policeman. Since World War II's conclusion, the US has engaged in over 200 military interventions worldwide, leaving a trail of consequences that stretch beyond borders. The toll on both US troops and civilians in affected countries, coupled with substantial financial costs impacting the national budget and debt, paints a complex portrait of America's global footprint. Even though there are still many problems in the country, such as homelessness and poverty, sucks income gap. Talking about homelessness and poverty, the paradox within the United States' economic might is striking. It boasts one of the most substantial wealth gaps among developed nations, consigning millions to the grasp of poverty. The Gini coefficient, a benchmark for income inequality, paints a vivid picture, positioning the U.S. at 0.39 in 2021, an alarming high among developed nations. Picture it as a grand pizza shared among 100 people, where one person indulges in 30% of the colossal slice, leaving the remaining 99 to divide the rest. This stark socioeconomic disparity reverberates across society, echoing in diminished social mobility, compromised health outcomes, and an overall sense of societal malaise. Within this panorama, millions of Americans grapple with the harsh realities of poverty, from pervasive food insecurity and housing instability to constrained access to education and healthcare. The financial burdens of these basic necessities are already beyond reach for most Americans without the buffer of debt or insurance. Sucks healthcare system. The American healthcare system stands as the priciest among developed nations, an ironic reality given that millions remain without health insurance coverage. Household budgets bear the weight of healthcare expenses, with the average family allocating a staggering 14.5% of their income to meet medical needs. Within this financial struggle, the specter of medical debt looms large, affecting 42% of Americans, with 12% encountering severe difficulties in settling their healthcare-related dues. The costs associated with healthcare create a formidable barrier for numerous Americans, leading to delayed or altogether foregone medical care. This restricted access not only amplifies existing health disparities, but also detrimentally impacts overall health outcomes, underscoring the pervasive affordability crisis that places significant financial strains on individuals and families. In stark contrast, several developed countries, including Canada, numerous European nations, and Japan, have embraced universal healthcare systems that ensure healthcare access for every citizen. These systems, often government-funded and centrally administered, boast lower overall costs. Consider Canada, spending a modest $6,125 per capita on healthcare, whereas the United States astonishingly dedicates $12,914 per person annually, a figure surpassing Canada's by half. France follows at $5,249, and Japan at $4,801, prompting us to question why can it be that high. The root of this financial divergence lies in the heavy reliance of the United States on private insurance, introducing administrative overheads and profit margins for insurance companies. Additionally, the country grapples with elevated drug prices compared to its developed counterparts, often attributed to the absence of government regulation and the presence of market monopolies. This convoluted system has tangible consequences, as many Americans, particularly those who are uninsured or underinsured, grapple with the tough decision of delaying or foregoing necessary care due to concerns about affordability. The result? It translates into poorer health outcomes, with the United States ranking lower than numerous other developed nations in life expectancy and infant mortality, painting a sobering picture of the current state of American healthcare. Sucks gun violence and mass shooting. And then, there's the glaring issue of gun violence and mass shootings, a narrative that unfolds as a compelling national concern. The United States stands out with a disproportionately high rate of gun violence when compared to its developed counterparts. The statistics tell a tale of a nation with a gun ownership rate significantly eclipsing other developed nations, translating into a disturbingly elevated rate of gun-related incidents, even in the absence of war or the specter of drug cartel violence akin to some southern regions. The U.S. recorded over 45,000 gun-related deaths in 2022, a somber tally encompassing more than 24,000 suicides and 22,000 homicides. The impact of gun violence is profound, leaving indelible scars on communities, families, and individuals. This unnerving reality has led a growing number of Americans to perceive owning a firearm as not just an option, but a necessity for personal protection. Unfortunately, this inclination heightens the risk of individuals with mental disorders gaining access to firearms, contributing to the alarming occurrence of mass shootings. While these events remain relatively rare, their catastrophic nature underscores the urgent need for discussions surrounding gun control measures and mental health interventions on a national scale. Sucks mass incarceration and criminal justice system. The data unequivocally illustrates that the United States detains a larger proportion of its population than any other developed nation, with an overwhelming 2 million individuals presently behind bars. The incarceration rate hovers at a staggering 629 per 100,000 people, underscoring the magnitude of the issue. Alarmingly, this crisis extends beyond mere statistics. It disproportionately affects Black Americans, who find themselves incarcerated at a rate nearly 5 times higher than their white counterparts, despite comparable crime rates. This glaring disparity raises legitimate concerns about racial bias and the efficacy of rehabilitation efforts within the American penal system. In my perspective, all of that is enough to show that the United States is a sucky country, from possessing the most expensive health system among developed countries to grappling with the highest income gap, coupled with lax gun control measures and the highest incarceration rate compared to its peers. The nation faces a multifaceted challenge. Furthermore, the United States penchant for assuming the role of the world police, even though no one asked them to do so. There is already a UN, right? It makes the existence of the United Nations begs the question, what purpose does it serve if the United States can effortlessly veto decisions that run counter to its preferences? Perhaps it's time to shift our gaze inward, addressing the dire issues of homelessness in cities like LA and Las Vegas, or tackling the pressing drug crisis in places like Philadelphia. What do you think? Do you also think the US is a sucky country, or do you believe it has its best? Would love to hear your thoughts via the comments section below. And if you resonate with my perspective, don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Meanwhile, I'll take my leave and look forward to engaging with you in the upcoming episode.